Obrigado. Obrigado, Enéas. Bom dia. It's the last Portuguese of my talk. GIS, creating our future. Something interesting to think about. This idea of connecting data and systems and people. It's an interesting idea. There is a person by the name of Peter Drucker, a famous, professor and actually economist. And of course, economists are always asked to make predictions. You know, what's the economy going to be like tomorrow, 1 year from now? Where should I invest? Well, Peter Drucker was kind of a practical guy. And he said, well, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So that really is an interesting thought. So Peter Drucker actually started a business school. It's named after him. It's near Redlands, where I live. And it is a highly creative place. It really inspires me. And I met some interesting people there. In fact, I recently hired a woman who is a graduate from there. She knows about film. She has an MBA. And she loves GIS. So she has really inspired me because she sees the world completely differently than I do. And as we know, the world is really challenged, very challenged, right now. We're facing many, many issues. We have issues of urbanization. We have very dramatic swings in our weather patterns. We have urbanization, and population is growing very fast. We're over 7 billion people now. And there's social unrest. Where are the jobs for young people? How are we going to feed and keep our populations healthy? You face this every day. So geography, I would say, now more than ever, is very important to all of us. It actually is the science of our world. It helps bring information together in new ways. We've sort of partitioned out science into all these separate disciplines. But now's the time to start bringing it together. GIS is actually integrating geography and using geography and exploiting geography to bring these sciences together, to change the way we see things. When I met with the governor of Abu Dhabi, they actually are using GIS extensively in the way that they run their government. He said, to me, GIS is actually an extension of my senses. I can see things differently. I can hear things that I wouldn't ordinarily hear, and I can feel what's going on. So this idea that GIS helps us see things and perceive things differently is very important if we're going to address these challenges. So GIS actually helps us think differently and act differently to change the way that things are working. GIS is evolving. It's actually very exciting. Having you all here to share some of these ideas is also exciting and inspiring to me. So this notion of web GIS, it's an emerging trend. It's different. And why is that? because it's not just us individually working alone. It's actually bringing to life our collective work and making it available to solve a lot of these issues that we just talked about. WebGIS is actually built on top of and leverages many other technologies. So measurement technologies, faster computing, cloud computing, measurement systems, sensors of all types. Some of these things you can just launch by hand and get imagery and understand, begin to understand and visualize what's going on. GIS layers on top of all of these sensors, in a sense, the Internet of Things, and brings it to life, allows us to access it and make use of it in our real-world work. WebGIS actually integrates a lot of this information, actually all types of information, and exposes them in a new way as services, making them more accessible and shareable. So this idea that this sensor information, real-time information feeds, imagery of all types, the traditional mapping information that we work with every day, big data, data that's stored in big repositories, and the ability to dip into that and bring it up to use it in our work. Also, social media and integration with business systems that we use every day. All of this content and information can be organized into portals, into destinations that are for us as individuals and as groups and as entire organizations. And all of this can happen on the open web as well as on our own premises, in our own offices. There's another important trend, this idea of the app revolution. Okay, when I was a young professional, actually, well, I used computers. I was sort of an advanced guy. I had access to computers and mainframe computers, and then mini computers, and then personal computers. And well, when I was working, I would use maybe 2 apps a day, 3 apps a day. And yesterday I counted, okay, and I was on here, I used 23 apps. 23 apps to do my work. It's pretty interesting. So this app revolution, we want to access information on all types of devices, and we want to work in new ways, and we want to get only the information we need, and we want to get much more focused about what we're doing. So this idea of apps serving us, I kind of like that idea. So WebGIS incorporates all of these ideas, and it's actually beginning to transform the way that we as GIS professionals can do our work. It used to be that, well, we would work hard in the back office and a lot of people wouldn't know what we do. But all of a sudden, the work that we do is becoming more and more and more important. And we actually, through WebGIS and these apps and the ability to share our information, this is actually quite a powerful thing. So it really is transforming the way that we work, and we're enabling thousands and thousands and actually millions of new types of users that can tap into all of the information that we work so hard to create. I want to introduce another idea here. This is called geodesign. Actually, it's taking all of the good work, all of the data that Aeneas talked about, and all of the systems that are coming together, and it is allowing us to become creative, to bring this information to create the content and the context for creating new things, creating new cities, for creating new preserves, for looking at the world differently, for routing things in places that are not damaging. So taking into consideration all types of things. This has to happen in the design context, the creative process, also the ability to collaborate with other people to make our plans better, to create alternatives, to evaluate each of these alternatives, examine the trade-offs. Am I actually accomplishing what I needed to accomplish, and do it in a way that's sensitive and not damaging to other resources that are important to us? And then take those plans and put them into action. So this idea of geodesign, it's a very active process, and it requires geography and GIS to bring it to life. So you, my colleagues, and you and your colleagues from all around the world are really critical to making this all happen. You understand data. You understand the systems. You create the authoritative content that's actually needed to help others support their work and support broader understanding to allow us to tackle these difficult problems. So I'd like to ask you to join me in rethinking the way we work, in a sense, becoming part of this idea, using WebGIS, but also becoming important contributors to WebGIS, this new emerging pattern. So let me share now a little bit about the work of my colleagues back in Redlands and actually at the other development centers around the world. They're working hard for you to bring this vision into reality. My colleagues are creating what we call ArcGIS. Well, you've heard about ArcGIS, but ArcGIS continues to evolve. ArcGIS is an integrated platform for mapping, for analysis, for data management, and for collaboration. It's powered by servers. It's powered by content of all types. It's a place where you can access all the content, as we mentioned, in the form of web services and web maps and apps. And apps bring it all to life. Apps on every kind of device. Apps on desktops. Apps on smartphones. Apps on tablets. Apps on who knows what's next, the wearable things and all that. And also, of course, apps on the web. So this integrated platform is allowing us to do amazing things. Something interesting is happening. I mentioned to you, as I was working individually as an analyst, I would work with files. A lot of you still do this. Working on my desktop, working alone, I would, we used to call it the sneaker net. Maybe you still call it that. We would have these floppy disks, and we'd share disks and files. Then we kind of evolved into this idea of sharing data in a geodatabase, geo-enabled databases, where we could put all of the features and information that describe the world into a database, and we could access this database in a common way. WebGIS actually extends this information model. It actually brings this information to life in a whole new way. This is about web services and exposing these web services in a series of maps called web maps. It's a really powerful, powerful notion. and it allows us to share information and mash up information, combine information in ways that we've never been able to do before. And to access this information across all these devices and apps that we talked about. Amazing. Allowing us to do amazing things. Should we talk a little more about ArcGIS, the platform? We talked about various communities and the idea that ArcGIS supports collaboration. Well, there are really 3 communities within organizations that ArcGIS supports. It's you, of course, the ArcGIS professionals, the GIS professionals, creating authoritative content, doing analysis, creating maps, beautiful cartographic products, sharing your work, and so on. There's also another important community that now is becoming part of ArcGIS and WebGIS, and this is executives and knowledge workers, those people that traditionally are just using business systems, but now you can take the authoritative content of an organization and push it up and integrate it seamlessly, smoothly with business systems, and now serve a whole new community. There's another community, and that is the developers, thinking of new ways to deliver information. These 3 communities are fully supported by the ArcGIS platform. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about the platform and the development themes that we're working on. First of all, there's spatial analysis. Spatial analysis is at the heart of GIS. It really is what brings amazing value and allows us to do amazing things with the information that we have available. On the desktop, we have new tools, space-time relationships, not just space and time relationships, and the ability to integrate those. More powerful models and extensions of the model building and the geoprocessing framework. Also, the ability to integrate all types of information and geo-enrich, both from information and data sets that are on your desktop, as well as reaching out into the web. Of course, multi-dimensional data is also something that's important from a science perspective. Also, these spatial analysis capabilities, many of them are moving on to the online platform. So the idea of being able to cluster and do hotspots and the ability to detect things that are near and do buffering, things that have only been able to be accomplished on the desktop, now are available online, enabling thousands of new users and thousands of new capabilities now in a much easier way. Real-time GIS. So the ability to combine information from sensors. We talked about this Internet of Things. These are sensors on networks. These are sensors on devices. These are sensors on moving vehicles. These are sensors on people. All of these things can be tracked and visualized and analysis performed in real time, and then information being served out, alerts and problem areas, and actually supporting big monitoring systems at utilities and in public safety and so on. So this idea of a geo-event processor, the geo-event extension that sits on top of server, enables all of this real-time GIS to come to life. Also, fully integrated with this is with our partner OSIsoft that has sensor systems. In a sense, it's this merging of authoritative content for space and time brought into this incredible environment. 3D. The world is 3D. We like to visualize things in 3D. We also need to analyze things in 3D. We need to store information in 3D. So 3D comes to life in terms of web scenes and in terms of being able to create content in an interactive way. We'll actually see some of these things. It's much easier to see them than for me to describe it. Geodesign, I mentioned this earlier. It's actually the way that we can begin to create the future in a much more sensitive and holistic way. Geodesign actually is a very deliberate process. The idea of taking data and combining it and designing the features that we're interested in, actually an analysis and feedback loop that lets us know whether or not we're accomplishing what we intend to accomplish, and then finally getting to a finished plan and a product that we can actually implement. So these are tools that actually are being exposed from all the capabilities that we discussed into interactive web tools and also into the design framework in a 3D environment in CityEngine. The imagery capabilities of ArcGIS continue to expand. It's really quite amazing. We've expanded actually not just from two-dimensional imagery, but actually looking at multi-dimensional data. So it's not just images, things that we see, but it's actually multi-dimensional raster data that is also an important part of our imagery platform. The atmospheric scientists and ocean scientists are actually really, really excited about some of this multi-dimensional data. We also are able to deliver information on the fly, pre-processed in a way that allow you to actually create things that only an image analyst could create before, and then ask for them on demand, like impervious surface for people who are designing cities and wastewater and stormwater systems. Content. We talked about ArcGIS creating understanding, and geography actually bringing the context for us to create a better future. Well, content is also the way that we embody science. It's information. We need to access that content. In a sense, ArcGIS is becoming a living atlas, information of all types. So we have probably over 1,500 layers now that Esri is curating. This is kind of interesting. There are so many layers and so many types of information that we actually had to create an app. The idea is that this content can be used in what we call geo-enrichment, taking your data, maybe information about customers or citizens, and then adding additional information to it, enriching it with information about demographics, enriching it about information from business data, enriching it with information about terrain, enriching it with information about vegetation and other physical characteristics. And then we can put those data into analyses and use them. It's kind of an interesting concept. So not only do we have a living atlas, but we can actually put that information to work in our analysis. Let's move on and talk about apps. Apps are what actually brings all this to us as users of the system. Apps are native apps on the various devices, Android, iOS, Windows, and of course, in web browsers. There are apps for GIS, typical things that we used to do, let's say, used to take lots of time, but now we have story maps. To me, this is one of the most interesting apps that we have. I've learned so much from our user community because they tell the stories and then you can just publish them on the web in a simple, easy, understandable way. There are web templates, there are open data templates, there are ways to explore information. Explorer is an app, and so on. There are apps for business systems. I mentioned that there's this new community of knowledge worker, people that traditionally use business systems. Well, now there are apps that allow these maps that we talked about to be connected directly with these business systems. This is not a month-long integration process. This is out of the box, ready to use, plug it in, and have maps in my business systems. So all the popular business systems like Microsoft Office, SAP, Business Objects, MicroStrategy, PowerPoint, Dynamics CRM, and so on. Then there's another app for those of you that like to develop apps. It's called the Web App Builder. This is actually an HTML5 and Java-based application builder. Even I can develop apps. It takes no programming. It's quite amazing. We'll see this a little bit later. Some of you actually want to take your information and share it in an open way. So we've added an app called the Open Data app. Actually, there's quite a movement about open data, government, taking their information that used to be private, and only certain people could access it, and opening it up to new developer communities, opening it up to the public for more transparency, and also to drive innovation and new ways of thinking about how government should work and how government should engage with its citizens. So this new app, with a few clicks, can allow government agencies to open up their data for those data that they want to share. Interoperability is another important theme. ArcGIS is really an open platform. It's based on standards, IT standards, and GIS standards, and we support hundreds of these to allow ArcGIS to interoperate more smoothly with other business systems and other technologies. Let's now talk about products. We've talked about technology, but what are those things that you actually use? Desktop, of course, is our old friend, but desktop is not just desktop anymore. It's not just a single app. It's actually multiple apps and access into all kinds of things. We're introducing now, and it's in beta, something called ArcGIS Pro. We'll take a deeper dive and look at that more carefully in a minute. ArcGIS Pro is a whole new environment for you to do 2D mapping, 3D mapping, 3D investigation, tie out to information on the web, and so on. Okay, some of you, does anyone here remember ArcView 3? ArcView 3? A few. Somebody said you weren't born. Oh. Well, okay. We took a lot of heat because there were some amazing things in ArcView 3, like the idea of a project where I could bring all kinds of things together that I was working on. And the idea that I had not just one map that I was creating, but I could actually have multiple maps in that project. Okay, all that comes back in ArcGIS Pro. Not only that, it's 2D and 3D all integrated into a single app. Desktop, as I mentioned, also now comes with online. Desktop is not just desktop. Desktop has reach into the whole ArcGIS platform. So it extends your power both for accessing information that's out there and also for creating new information and sharing it back in a smooth, seamless way. Let's talk for a moment about online. ArcGIS Online is part of the WebGIS. It actually allows us to have content. There's actually content out there. It actually allows you to put content into the system in a secure way for you and your organization. It allows you to share this in portals for your organization, and so much more. If you don't have enough apps, there's something called the marketplace. The marketplace is an area where business partners and others can actually put additional apps. These apps can be quickly downloaded and purchased, and then you can use them within your whole organization, both in an online context as well as an offline context with many of them. So it's an amazing place for accessing ready-to-use content, for publishing your own content, for accessing apps, publishing apps, and getting more apps. ArcGIS Server is one of the foundation pieces of WebGIS. It comes along with a portal now that helps you manage content, manage web maps, manage services, and also to share those in secure ways as well as in an open way. Part of what we need as GIS professionals is some shortcuts. I was always looking to my friends to learn, how did you do that? What's the format of what you had here? What are the data models that you use? That's beautiful symbology. How can I create a map like that? So we have taken a lot of these ideas, things that you all do right now, taken the best ideas and brought them together in a series of industry templates, like ArcGIS for water utilities, and ArcGIS for public safety, and ArcGIS for environment, and ArcGIS for electric utilities, and, well, you get the idea. So in these templates, there are industry standard data models, there are map templates, there are specific apps that help you create and manage authoritative content, and they're free and they're open source. You can just download them and use them. You can also extend them to make them more usable for your organization. So it's really quite an extraordinary thing to help you leverage the power of the whole platform and then get your work done faster, better, with less headaches. So we talked a lot about apps. If there are not enough apps, well, develop your own. So we talked about that ArcGIS supports, again, these three communities: GIS professionals, the knowledge workers, and also ArcGIS is a platform for developers. Developers, through simple, easy-to-use APIs, are able to access all the authoritative content within the WebGIS. Also, all of the hosted content from Esri and others, and bring them together in amazing new ways to help engage citizens, to help workers within your own organization be more productive. And who knows what's next? So I'd like to wrap up a little bit here and talk about the future. What's next? Well, we'll share a little bit of that soon, but coming in early 2015 will be ArcGIS 10.3. Actually, just yesterday, a new update version of ArcGIS Online was just released, many new features, but we're going to continue to progress the technology, progress the systems, progress this notion of WebGIS to help you solve many of the problems that we face today. So at Esri, we really are focused on helping you be successful. This is actually something that's very important to us. We also are working hard to advance GIS and to advance the idea of spatial thinking, bringing together different types of information to create a better future. One of the most important things to Esri is our user community, and we're actually looking to expand that. We talked about the idea of coming together. Aeneas showed us what it's like to be a community. But this idea of GeoNet is actually now a new social community. So after today and tomorrow, we can continue with our discussion. We can continue with special interest groups. We can continue the conversation in a new social way on GeoNet. Hopefully, you'll get a chance to use that, and we'll have a way for you to get engaged in the GeoNet community. Esri relies a lot on partners. Partners are really part of Esri, and they're part of you. They support us in many ways. We're very fortunate to have outside many of our partners who have apps and information products and new ways of doing things that will really help you. They extend this platform in many, many interesting ways. In fact, they're part of the platform and are here to support you. Relationships are very important to us. Our relationship with our friends, our relationships with you, many different types of relationships, NGOs, people that are working hard to make a difference in the world. We support these organizations. We support them to help them do their work. Conservation. We know that the world is challenged in many ways, and we have to conserve very special places. And the conservation community and this organization, Society for Conservation GIS, it's a specialty. They specialize in making sure that the world understands where these special places are. And education. The next generation. That's who we all have to depend on for carrying these ideas forward. Actually, we had something very special a couple of weeks ago. It was called a MOOC. This is a way of educating thousands of people all at once. Well, we're going to be experimenting with that. We also are heading into, on November 19th, GIS Day. And I want to ask each and every one of you to participate in a GIS Day event. Take some of your knowledge and share it with the next generation. I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. It will be an inspiring time for you. So our world, in summary, has many challenges. We need to think differently and act differently if we're going to overcome many of these challenges. GIS and geography helps us see things differently. GIS gives us the tools, actually, to begin to work together and collaborate, take on these big challenges, and create a better future. So thank you all. Obrigado.